back to the subject of reaction, because that is where the whole weight is found. The pressure and grief is not only the ache that visits at 3 a.m, it is the voice that says, be better by now. Move on. Prove you're healed. That voice is not comfort. It is bondage dressed as counsel, and it makes a second wound where only one was. You see, sorrow came, and then a ruler came to measure it, and then a verdict came to condemn it, and because the numbers did not please the mind. Take therefore no thought for the morrow, the Master said. And if we are honest, the morrow we keep taking thought for is the day we plan to show no tears, the day we will post a smile and call it victory. That is not healing. That is the Sabbath made to rule the man. Man was not made for the Sabbath, and man was not made for a calendar of emotions either. Now hear this, and do not miss it. Do not measure your demonstration day by day. Do not wait to take your emotional pulse and score yourself righteous or unworthy. That scoreboard is a yoke, and you were not fashioned for yokes. When I use the word demonstration, I do not speak of getting an appearance to obey your will. Demonstration in the life of spirit is the inner realization breaking through an awareness of presence, a settled knowing of Christ as the only identity, a non-reaction that witnesses, be still and know that I am God, not be still and perform stillness for your neighbors. Be still and know. The outward may or may not move today. The inward is the place of our art, and even there we do not hammer at it. We consent. We wait upon the Lord, and they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Do you see that? Let me say it plainly. Toxic positivity is a modern superstition. It is simply another set of Pharisaical rules. Smile equals grace. Tears equal failure. Nonsense. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. If mourning is blessed, then tears are not a sign you have missed God. They are a sign God is here, preparing comfort on his own schedule. Never enter the case humanly. Never give yourself human advice dressed in religious vocabulary. Do not talk your heart out of its ache. Do not wave a truth text at your own chest to force a change of expression. We are not here to fix grief humanly. We are here to see through it, to refuse its verdict, and to let the invisible law of maturity bring to light what eye has not seen. Faith, the degree of faith, is shown by your reaction, not by the temperature of emotion at breakfast, not by whether you did or did not cry on the commute. The real issue is whether, when sorrow appears, you put yourself on trial and call yourself guilty, or whether you quietly refuse the jurisdiction of that court. Judge not, that ye be not judged. Every time you look at today's feeling and hand down a sentence on your soul, you have judged. The practice of not judging is not soft, it is holy. Judge nothing before the time, said Paul, and the time of God is not the wristwatch time. Let patience have her perfect work, James counseled, and patience cannot work in a room filled with clipboards, charts, and hourly inspections. All right. So what then is our way? We stop the experiment of checking ourselves. We drop the emotional thermometer. We put away the calendar. If there is a single test permitted, let it be this. Am I willing, just for this hour, to rest without self-condemnation? If the wave rises, will I refuse to call it failure? Will I sit in the quiet and acknowledge God is present? God is not a power to be used to erase my feeling. God is the life in which even this wave takes its place and loses its authority. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Rest is not an outcome. It is a presence recognized, and recognition is not produced by willpower. It ripens as we desist from meddling. You do not put blossoms on a branch by staring at it, and you do not bring peace by watching the clock. Stop watching. Stop scoring. Stand with principle over personality, your own personality included. The Christ in you is not improved by today's composure, nor diminished by today's tears. In the hours to come, we will move into the practice of this. But for now, let the foundation be laid. The day-by-day scoreboard is not healing. It is bondage. Put it down. Be still. Refuse the verdict. And in that refusal, feel already the first whisper of freedom, not because the appearance has changed, but because you did not bow to it. That, you see, is the beginning of demonstration. Now we come to the next great temptation, entering the case humanly. What does that look like? It is the mind taking a clipboard to the heart, diagnosing, grading, setting milestones, comparing your course with a neighbor's, bargaining with God as if God were the superintendent of timelines, searching for the correct emotion, the proper spiritual faith, as if you could conjure a holy state by rehearsal. That, beloved, is the human approach. It is a manager's meeting held over the soul, with charts of improvement and threats of reprimand if a smile doesn't appear by Friday. And then, because we have learned a few beautiful sentences of truth, we turn those into force, bludgeoning the heart with verses until it complies. Never enter the case humanly. Never turn truth into a tool to make an appearance obey you. God is not a power to be wielded. God isn't mind. God isn't even soul. Nobody knows what God is. And because nobody knows what God is, nobody can summon God to do human bidding. Be still and know that I am God. Be still, don't manage. No, don't manipulate. Spiritual work is another order entirely from emotional management. Emotional management says, change state, fix the picture, push the heart into the mold. Spiritual work refuses the premise. It does not set out to manufacture peace. It yields to presence, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. You see, not by the might of affirmation, nor by the power of a brave face, but by that which is not yours to manufacture, the spirit that is already the life of your life. The more you try to rake the surface smooth, the more you stir the dust. The practice is not raking. The practice is non-reaction to the roughness and consent to the stillness that is, even while the wind is up. Now, the world says, move on, and by that it often means, disappear your sorrow, so I need not face mine. The culture of moving on is very polite. It does not threaten at sword point. It merely whispers about getting back to normal. And if you listen too long, you will find yourself enlisted as an actor in a theater of denial, smile cues, costume changes, exit lines for tears. Do not fight the world about this. Do not educate it with speeches. Refuse the premise silently. Man was not made for the Sabbath, and man was not made for the etiquette of cheerfulness. To accept that demand is to step into a costume and leave your soul in the dressing room. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. The beatitude is not an insult. It is a release from pretense. Here is the contrarian counsel, and it is sharp to the carnal mind. Never desire to change appearances, especially the appearance called grief. Do not be frightened by that. I am not asking you to marry grief. I am asking you not to fight a shadow. Let the appearance be what it is without making it your identity. Christ is the only identity. If a wave rises on the surface, do you announce, I am the wave? Or do you quietly remember, I am the ocean's depth, and this is a passing surface motion? A woman wrote from Chicago, I wake, and the ache is there, and I chant verses against it like a spell. I answered, stop the spell, sit down, say nothing. Refuse the verdict that an ache is a failure. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Rest does not arrive by chanting louder. Rest dawns when you are no longer conscripting God to change your sky. All right? If we are not managing grief as a project, what then are we doing? We are learning non-reaction to the appearance named I am failing. That is the whole trial. You see, not the ache, but the verdict you rush to sign. Judge nothing before the time. The time is God's, not yours. So when the feeling appears, the work is not to chase it out of the room. The work is to decline its authority and sit in the presence until the it is I, be not afraid is recognized without your forcing it. That recognition is the beginning of true healing, and it does not enter by management. It is disclosed by maturity. Let us move on to see what your reaction reveals, because faith, real faith, is shown exactly there. Back again to reaction, because here is the hidden appearance that tricks the earnest heart. I should be over this. That little sentence wears a pious face, but it carries a whip. It is the serpent in the garden of your mourning, and with it comes shame. The ache itself is one thing. The verdict that says you are behind schedule, you are spiritually unfit, you are failing, is another thing entirely. And faith, the degree of faith, is shown not by the temperature of the ache, but by what you do when that verdict knocks. Judge not, that ye be not judged. You are not judging a neighbor when you repeat that. You are judging your own soul when you bow to that whisper. The test will come in memory and in music, in dates circled on a calendar, in the scent of winter at a doorway, in the drive past a certain exit, in the opinions of others telling you to be strong. When they come, what then? Do you move into reaction, into self-condemnation, as if an appearance were a verdict, or do you stand in the middle path where the Christ abides? Let me define this middle path, and you must make it practical. We are on it when we neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance. Do you see that? Neither worship grief as if it were a holy relic, nor fear it as if it were a devil. Neither dramatize it for sympathy, nor suppress it to appear advanced. We are not to take sides with or against a wave. We stand with principle, and principle says, Christ is the only identity. Appearance is not authority. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. If there is no condemnation in Christ, then there is no room for the inner prosecutor, no docket, no judge's bench, no sentence. Your work is not to make the sea calm by noon. Your work is to refuse the trial you keep convening against yourself. Now, a simple example. A song rises in the cafe, and without your asking, the wave rolls in. The mind rushes. Still, after all these months, back to zero. That, beloved, is the trial, not the wave, but the commentary. Do not argue with the feeling. Do not add speeches from your private courtroom. Sit in the presence, if only for a breath, and witness the inner Christ saying, "It is I. Be not afraid. Add nothing. Subtract nothing. Let the wave break on a shore that is not judging it." A man in Boston wrote, "The cereal aisle ambushed me. I stood there trembling, ashamed to be weak in public. I answered, 'Stand there again if it comes. Do not hide your hands. Simply say within, neither do I condemn thee.' Then buy your bread like any other day. You will find that the shame will thin. The fear will loosen, not because you forced the ocean, but because you withdrew the verdict. That is faith shown by non-reaction. We must be exact about this, for the carnal mind is sly. It will try to make non-reaction into another performance. See how serene I am. Nonsense. Non-reaction is not an act. It is the refusal to bow to appearances as power. It is the quiet knowing that a sensation, a memory, a date, a place, a voice, has no law to condemn you. Who shall lay anything to the charge of God's elect? It is God that justifieth. And God that justifies is not a concept you employ. It is the very life being itself as you. In that realization, you stop prosecuting yourself for being human, and you begin consenting to be spiritual without fanfare. All right. So when the wave comes, what is the work? It is not to stop it. It is to stop the inner gossip that announces it as evidence against your soul. Judge nothing before the time. And the time is not the moment of a song on the radio. The time is God's own maturity. The only question worth asking in that hour is, am I willing to rest without condemning myself? If yes, then you are already on the middle path. If no, be still anyway, and let the Spirit answer for you. You will hear, sooner or later, "Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine." And that ends the trial. Now, to cease reacting in this way, we must look more closely at what we are facing. For as long as grief wears the mask of personal defect, you will feel obliged to fight or to hide. But when grief hardens into shame, it is no longer personal at all. It is a universal belief strutting through human consciousness, claiming authority without law. In a moment, we will take that mask off and see that it never had power to begin with. For now, remember, the issue is not that sorrow appears. The issue is reacting with self-condemnation as though appearance were verdict. Refuse the verdict, and you have refused the only power error pretends to have. Now let us take off the mask. When grief hardens into shame, you are no longer facing your private deficiency. You are face to face with a universal belief, a pressure in the air, the course of this world, the hypnosis of culture, insisting that love must end in devastation, and devastation must be hidden if you wish to remain acceptable. Be not conformed to this world, Paul says. And the world here is not a globe. It is the law of appearances, whispered into human thought as if it were divine decree. Do you see that? This is the prince of a false ordinance, not your soul's truth. We are not speaking of your heart's clean ache. We are speaking of an accusation layered onto that ache, announcing, you're broken, you're behind, you will never be whole. That is not your voice, and it is not God's. It is the echo of an impersonal belief with no charter from heaven. Separate, then, the feeling from the belief. Feeling moves. It rises, it falls, like weather across an open field. It has no malice, no gavel, no sentence. Belief accuses. It sets up a courtroom in the chest. and reads statutes it invented yesterday. The superstition of dates says, it has been 6 months, therefore maturity demands you not feel this. The superstition of public composure says, be strong, by which it means hide. The superstition of productivity says, if you can accomplish, you are recovering. If you cannot, shame on you. All these are not laws. They are customs pretending to be law. Let no man therefore judge you in respect of an holy day, said the apostle. And if they may not judge in respect of a holy day, certainly not in respect of your Tuesday tears. Right here, we nullify them. Right now, we recognize that a universal belief has no law to sustain it, no authority to sentence you, no power to compel a demonstration of strength on a timetable. There is only one lawgiver, and he is not the calendar, not the office manager, not the inner critic with a clipboard. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. And universal belief is a weapon made of vapor. It flourishes only if you agree to breathe it as oxygen, decline it, stand fast in liberty. This is not bravado. This is simple recognition. Error has no cause, no mandate, no power. If culture says the anniversary will break you, you may answer gently, the date has no edict over the life of God as me. If the crowd says, smile, be strong, get back to normal, you may answer without lips moving. Man was not made for the Sabbath of your expectations. Neither resent nor obey. Refuse the premise silently. Consider our everyday theater. The Monday morning scoreboard. I worked 8 hours. Therefore, I am better. The Friday collapse. I slowed. Therefore, I am failing. The gathering where well-meaning voices pat your shoulder and whisper, you're so brave, meaning you have not made me uncomfortable. All of this is the fog of a universal belief in appearances as power. And what of the calendar? It is as if a date could control spirit, like those old notions that a draft causes a cold. On the whole, we suffer from such impersonal suggestions. We pick them up and wear them as our own. The moment you see it as suggestion and not law, its fancied authority evaporates. For the letter killeth, but the spirit giveth life. The letter is the metric. The spirit is the presence. Refuse the letter, and you will notice the pressure ease without a contest. Now, once it is impersonal, the inward war becomes unnecessary. You can stop taking sides against yourself, no good self to award medals to, no weak self to banish into the cellar, principle over personalities. That includes the personality you call me. Christ is the only identity. In this recognition, you withdraw the case from your noisy inner court and let it be heard, if at all, in the silence where no accusations hold. Neither do I condemn thee, is the word within. And with that, the split self, the stern supervisor, and the trembling worker stands down. Do you see? When the verdict is exposed as a universal belief, you are free to rest in principle. You do not have to win against a feeling. You only have to refuse the lie that a feeling is a law. Be still and know. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Let this be the movement from today, out of personal blame into impersonal recognition, out of reaction into quiet adherence to the only principle there is. Then, from that ground, we can go on and stop taking sides entirely, letting identity rest where it belongs in the Christ, untouched by the emotional score. All right, having unmasked the verdict as impersonal, We come now to the inner civil war that so many of us conduct without knowing it. One part of you has hired itself as foreman, stern, punctual, armed with schedules and slogans. Move on, be strong, no more tears by Thursday. Another part of you is simply grieving clean, sincere, not malicious, not dramatic. It aches because it loved. Then, as if there were two nations at war, you fund the foreman and declare the mourner an enemy. You hire one side to defeat the other, and the foreman shouts scripture at the worker like law, not life. Get up, prove faith, smile. My friends, never take sides against yourself. You are not dealing with a good self and a bad self. You are dealing with appearances and the universal demand to react. Do you see that? The instant you take sides, you have left principle and entered a family quarrel where no one can win. Refuse the courtroom. Refuse the bench and the gavel and the daily hearings. Judge nothing before the time. The time is God's maturity, not your stopwatch. There is no defense table and no prosecution when you stand in Christ. For there is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. Condemnation is the only real injury here. The ache is whether it passes. The verdict is poison, it lingers, because you sip it. Stop sipping it. Stand with principle, not with a persona. Principle over personalities means you will not take the side of the fixer, and you will not take the side of the broken one. You will take the side of truth, which is no side at all, but a center. Christ is the only identity. The true self is not the scolding foreman and not the trembling worker. The true self is the witness that can be still, the eye that hears. Be still and know that I am God, and obeys without forcing either side into silence. A woman from Portland wrote, I keep trying to pray my pain into shape. I call it surrender, but really I am negotiating. I answered, lay down the contract. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is let the ache be present without trying to spiritualize it away. Do not put a halo on it. Do not put horns on it. Let it be weather across the field and rest in the field, not in the forecast. Neither do I condemn thee. Hear that said to both the one who weeps and the one who wants to end the weeping. Neither do I condemn the tear, and neither do I crown the will to stop it. We are on the middle path when we neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance. That is stability. That is sanity. That is faith shown by non-reaction. Now, the carnal mind will try to enlist you again. Pick a winner. Root for the fixer. Punish the feeler. Or the reverse, become proud of sorrow and suspicious of calm. Refuse both advertisements. Your allegiance is not to moods. Your allegiance is to the presence. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Do not manufacture salvation by argument. Do not decorate the storm with spiritual language and call it acceptance. Stand still. This is the end of the inner trial. You stop meeting yourself in court, and you start meeting God in silence. And let me say it in the language that offends our old theology, but frees the soul. Do not turn to God to change your picture. Do not turn to God as a power to crush a feeling. God is not power to be wielded. God is the life in which both wave and stillness appear and vanish without verdict. Nobody knows what God is, so stop using your idea of God as a whip. In this posture, permission flowers naturally. You are permitted to breathe. You are permitted to be unhurried. You are permitted to let patience have her perfect work without playing secretary to her progress. If spiritual harmony can only be achieved by separation from the inner foreman, let's have it. Let there be a clean break from the habit of self-opposition. If a tear rises, it rises in the ocean of God. If a calm descends, it descends in the same ocean, neither proves anything and neither disqualifies you from grace. The only measure left is this: did you bow to a verdict, or did you rest in the Christ that never needs a verdict? All right, then what is our next step? Not more thinking, not better arguments, not improved speeches at the bench of the mind. This kind goeth not out, but by prayer and fasting. By fasting from the need to control, from the habit of taking sides, from the compulsion to name a winner. Prayer, not as words, but as silent God contact, the kind that comes in a split second of yieldedness, when, without trying to feel holy, you discover you are not pushing your own heart anymore. In a moment, we will turn to that silence where the inner Christ says, without sound, be not afraid. It is I. And you will find that stabilization is not a structure you built, but a presence you recognized. Now, let us keep our word and enter that. Silence not as a technique, not as a holy exercise for the stopwatch, but as the only door that is not of our making. Nobody, by taking thought, can contact God. Which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit to his stature? You can organize your ideas, gather your verses, and arrange your feelings into a liturgy, but you do not thereby touch the living presence. Grief cannot be reasoned into completion. The heart is not a machine that obeys syllogisms. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Not in explanation, not in perfect arguments, in quietness. Here is our iconoclasm, and it will free you if you let it. Do not turn to God for anything, not for instant relief, not for a deadline, not for a sign that you are improving. An evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and we have all been that generation when we ask, give me a token by Friday that I am advancing. Do not make God your weather report. Do not make silence your pharmacy. When you turn to God for an effect, you remain in the marketplace, buying, selling, bargaining, returning merchandise. If it does not work by noon, leave the market. Turn not to get, but to be still and know that I am God. That is prayer. Not words, not volume, not emotion. A split second of relinquishment in which you stop instructing life and drop the reins you never held. God is not an object for the mind. God isn't mind. God isn't even soul. Nobody knows what God is. Therefore, stop measuring spiritual success by mental certainty. Certainty is a weather pattern. Presence is the earth. One moment you feel sure and you applaud your faith. Another moment you feel unsure and you condemn yourself. Both are performances. The Christ within requires no applause and fears, no booing. The kingdom of God is within you, not within your concepts of God. Within you, within the place that is before thought, beneath explanation, beyond improvement schedules. Go there, not to get rid of a feeling, but to drop the belief that feelings rule. How then, very simply and without drama, sit, stand, lie down, any posture will do, and withdraw for a breath from managing. Fasting here means fasting from results, fasting from verdicts, fasting from spiritual ambition. One breath in which you are not pushing the heart. One breath in which you do not ask for tomorrow to be different. One breath without an agenda. And in that breath, something not of you governs. After the fire is still small voice, said the prophet. Often there are no words, only a softened edge, a tenderness you did not produce, a willingness to let the hour be what it is without calling it failure. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. The he, there is not a figure you can picture. It is the inner government that rises when you have ceased your commands. A man in Toronto wrote, I gave up trying to feel peaceful and sat for 30 seconds with my hands open. Nothing happened. I answered, you do not know what happened. You gave the field permission to be a field again. You dropped your shovel. You refused the verdict for half a minute. And in that refusal, the soil loosened. 2 days later, he wrote, I found myself speaking more gently to my son without planning it. That is the evidence I trust. Not fireworks, not instant anesthesia, but a restored tenderness, without theater. By their fruits ye shall know them. And the first fruit of silence is the end of pushing. Now, stay close. You will be tempted to turn even this into a program. 3 silences a day, 15 minutes each. Guaranteed results by next Tuesday. Refuse it. Silence has its own law. Let maturity bring to light. Your part is the consent, the split second of be still, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord. Not make, not manage, see. From this seeing, governance flows often gentle, often wordless. You will find yourself choosing rest over hustling, kindness over bravado, a walk instead of the extra meeting, a yes to tears without shame, no trumpets, no verdicts, only the quiet rule of grace where the heart is not pushed. And when the next wave comes as it will, our practice will be exactly this. No bargaining, no instructions to life, only the recognition, be not afraid, it is I. Then the sea may roar or be calm. You will not take sides, for something deeper than weather will be at the helm. All right? When the wave rises, and it will rise as suddenly as a cent or a date or a corner you did not expect. Your work is very simple, and you must keep it simple or the mind will turn it into theater. First, pause. Do nothing outwardly heroic. No speeches, no bargains, no vows. Just stop for the space of one breath. Next, acknowledge the appearance. There is a surge. There is an ache. There is a memory. Without naming it, a judge. Then refuse reaction. That means no verdict, no inner headline, no scorekeeping. After that, enter the silence. Not a long pilgrimage, just the split second in which you do not push the heart. And then wait not for fireworks, not for anesthesia. Wait for the click, the almost imperceptible settling by which you know, without proof, that the helm has returned to the one. That is all. Pause, acknowledge, refuse, enter, wait. You see how undramatic that is? Now hear the scripture, not as doctrine to enforce emotion, but as reassurance from within consciousness itself. Be not afraid. It is I. This is not a command to stop feeling. It is the presence announcing itself as the reality under the feeling. It is I, not the wave, not the calendar, not the voices of culture, but the I that was before Abraham was, the inner Christ that neither condemns nor flatters. That simply is. Let that be heard as you wait. And do not try to manufacture the hearing. It is said to you, you do not say it to make magic. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you, not as anesthesia, not as numbness, as governance. Let me make it plainer with prohibition. Because in the first seconds, the mind grabs for levers. Don't analyze, don't compare, don't defend yourself, don't dramatize, don't suppress. Be still. Do not examine how big the wave is compared to last Thursday. Do not announce to yourself that you are either improving or backsliding. Do not rehearse a story to prove your strength. Do not bury the feeling as if it were a shame. Be still. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Not craft it. See it. You will ask, how do I know I am witnessing and not wallowing? Very simply, wallowing is reaction plus story plus self-verdict. It has a script, a prosecutor, and a doomed defendant. Witnessing is non-reaction. It has no script, no argument, no judge's bench. It is a seeing without a sentence. Wallowing says, this always happens to me. I'll never be free. Look at the calendar. Witnessing says nothing about me at all. It notices a wave and remains centered in the eye that does not rise and fall. Wallowing seeks sympathy or secrecy. Witnessing seeks no outcome and hides from nothing. If you find you have slid into story, do not condemn the slide. Simply pause and begin again. Refuse the verdict. Enter the silence. Wait for the click. And about that click, be content that it may be a whisper, not a bell. Sometimes it is only the smallest release of pressure, a loosening in the chest, the sense that you can breathe without managing the breath. Sometimes there is no feeling whatsoever, only the quiet fact that you are not pushing. Take nothing as a sign you failed. This kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting, and our fasting here is from results, from comparison, from the craving to know what is next. Prayer is the be still. Fasting is the refusal to measure. Now, this practice will tempt you to peek over your shoulder. Did anything happen? Am I better today than yesterday? That, beloved, is the anxiety of time trying to reclaim you. We will not follow it. Judge nothing before the time. And the time belongs to God's maturity, not your stopwatch. Do the simple work when the wave comes, and let maturity bring to light what you do not have to police. In a moment, we will speak of that divine timing, how the fruit ripens without being watched. But for now, take this with you. When the wave comes, refuse the verdict, enter stillness, and let the it is I presence be the helm. The sea will do what seas do. The I will do what I is. And you will find that without your managing, the shore is already under your feet. Now, about timing, do not outrun it. Do not audit it. Do not even compliment it to coax it to move. Judge nothing before the time, the apostle said. And time here is not your calendar. It is maturity, the ripening law of God that needs no supervision. Look at an orchard. You do not sweeten a pear by staring at it. You do not color a peach by writing daily reports on its progress. You tend the soil. You keep your hands off the fruit. You give it light and space. And you do not push. Which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit unto his stature? By the same token, which of you, by sighing and checking, can add 1 hour to your healing? You see, watching is not ripening. Love's maturity is not a spectacle. It is a law in the life itself. Let me put scripture under this so you can rest without apology. Let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. Patience is not delay. Patience is participation in a timing you do not govern. The husbandman knows this. Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord. Behold, the husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth. He waits not idly, not anxiously he waits, because the essence is working invisibly on his meddling bruises what his trust would bless. Do you see that? Your daily pulse taking is bruising. Your scoreboard is a thumb on tender flesh. Lift it off. Let patience have her perfect work. Let God have its perfect work. Saul of Tarsus was not ordained on the roadway and sent out by supper. He was arrested by light and then withdrawn into years of interior governance, 9 years before he went out, by our best reckoning. Those were not wasted years. They were yeast in the dough, root before branch. Preparation is not postponement. It is formation. If the Christ could take a zealot and keep him quiet until zeal ripened into message, can he not take your honest ache and ripen it into mercy, into breadth, into a humility that does not need to prove anything to anyone, including yourself? And now the sentence that will free many of you if you let it. Still hurting is not evidence of failure. Often it is evidence that pretense has ended and truth has begun. Pretense produces numbness. Truth produces tenderness. Your tears today may be cleaner than yesterday's strategies. The measure has shifted. You are not asked to stop feeling. You are asked to stop sentencing the feeling. By their fruits ye shall know them, not by your daily charts. What fruit? A little more gentleness with yourself when the morning lands heavy. A little less panic when the wave rises unannounced. A little less self-attack when the dishes sit or the email waits. A preference for kindness over bravado. A slower breath before you answer the phone. No announcement, just a softened edge that did not arrive by your pushing. These are not fireworks. They are first fruits. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith. Notice long-suffering sits right in the middle, patience woven into the bouquet. Do not clip the stem to make the blossom open. You will discover the evidence of Christ's activity not in the absence of ache, but in the absence of verdict, not in big scenes, but in small mercies, the way you speak to the child, the way you forgive the hour, the way you let the calendar lose its police badge and become a simple page again. All right, then what is required of you today? Tending, not timing. Consent, not control. Soil care, not fruit inspection. Stand still in the silence when the wave comes. Refuse the verdict. Do your ordinary tasks without making them examinations. And when the mind reaches for the clock, answer gently. The law of ripening is at work. I will not bruise it with my checking. Be still and know that I am God. Not be busy and know. Not be certain and know, be still. In that stillness, maturity does what only maturity can do. It gathers the scattered places and brings forth sweetness you could not schedule. Now, having settled this matter of timing, another pressure will surely come from kind people who prefer their comfort to your process, from systems that reward performance, from voices that demand a smile as passport back to the market. We will not fight them, and we will not obey them. In a moment, we will take up how to refuse their premise silently and keep love unbruised. For we are not asked to withdraw our heart from them. We are asked to keep our allegiance with principle, not with performances. Now the neighbors arrive, good people, most of them carrying casseroles and slogans. Get back out there. Stay busy. Everything happens for a reason. Don't let it win. Do you see how unkind kindness can be when it wears a stopwatch? None of these statements are evil. They are simply the world's way of hurrying pain off the porch so conversation can resume. Be not conformed to this world. And here the world is this, the universal belief that performance is health, that a brisk calendar is salvation, that silence is suspicious unless it produces results on schedule. We are not angry with them. We will not fight them, but neither will we sell our birthright for their comfort. Never enter the case humanly. That means do not debate your sorrow as if it were a court case to win. Do not defend your timing like a defendant pleading for mercy. And do not recruit them to understand. If you must make them understand, you have already made their verdict your law. Refuse the premise that you must perform, and refuse it silently. Principle over personalities. Do not take sides against the person. Recognize the impersonal voice speaking through them. This is not Aunt Ruth or your supervisor. This is the universal belief using respectable mouths to argue for speed, for smiles, for market-ready equilibrium. There is only one lawgiver. The office memo is not it. What do you say, then? Let your communication be simple so dignity is preserved on both sides. Thank you for caring. I'm taking this quietly. I appreciate your love. I'm not adding more just now. I'm keeping some space around this. I hear you. Then stop. No footnotes, no theological essays, no lecture on grief theory. Inwardly, return at once to silence. A split second will do. A soft answer turneth away wrath, and wrath here is not their anger, but the pressure in the air to argue, to explain, to audition for approval. Refuse the audition. If they insist, you need not escalate. A quiet, not today, and an inner. Be still and know. Do you see how you protect your process without bruising love? Do not try to make a ministry out of educating the well-meaning. If the Christ could not satisfy the sign seekers, an evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, you will not satisfy the outcome seekers by holding up your chart. And do not turn to God to arm you for debate. God is not your debating society. God is not power to crush an opinion. God isn't mind. God isn't even soul. Nobody knows what God is. Therefore, we do not pray, Lord, make them get it. We sink inward and let the silence answer for us. Often, there will be no answer at all, only a calm that neither resents nor obeys. That calm is your only statement. A man from Chicago wrote, "My friend keeps telling me, you need to date now. It's what she would want. I feel bullied." I answered, "Don't fight him. Don't follow him. Stand with principle." Thank you for thinking of me. I'm not doing that now, is complete. Then, inside, let go of him. Let go of the impulse to correct him. Let go of the sting. See the universal belief at work and nullify its seeming authority. This suggestion has no law to sustain it. Right now I stand in the liberty of Christ. He wrote later, the friendship survived, and the pressure faded without a blow-up. Of course it did. When you do not offer personality as a target, the arrows have nothing to lodge in. And let us be honest about the subtle temptation to weaponize your sorrow against those who are clumsy with it. Refuse that too. You are not asked to withdraw love. You are asked to withdraw consent to the premise. Keep your heart unarmored. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, is not a dramatic speech to them. It is a recognition within you that lifts the person out of the role the world has assigned. Then you are free to bless without performing, to receive kindness without submitting to its timetable. All right, we have answered the outer pressure without a quarrel, and we have kept love unbruised. But under all this counsel lies a fear so ancient it weeps even when no one speaks to us. The fear that love itself has been lost, that absence has power to sever what is holy. In a moment we must meet that directly, not with sentiment, but with identity. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Nor death, Paul said. We will not cling to memory as a substitute for life. We will find that love is not an object that can be taken, but a presence that cannot be absent. Now we come to it tender and exact. Grief is not proof that love has failed. Grief is proof that love mattered. Do you see that? Spirituality does not erase love or downgrade its importance. It reveals love's source as inexhaustible and its nature as presence, not property. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Neither death nor life, said the apostle. Death can separate bodies. It cannot separate love from itself. When sorrow rises, let it witness to the value of your loving without allowing it to crown absence as power. The human heart says, my love has been taken. The Christ within answers, love has not departed. Love is our ever-present activity, not an object. We must make this shift from possession love to presence love. Possession says, mine, held with a white knuckle of fear. Presence says, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. God is love, not as a sentiment, but as identity. And remember our iconoclasm, lest we turn this into more thinking. God isn't mind. God isn't even soul. Nobody knows what God is. Therefore, do not try to capture love with thought or freeze it into a memory. Recognize love as the invisible life that constituted you and the one you cherished before you named each other. Christ is the only identity. You were never two private selves trading affection. You were and are one life recognizing itself in many forms. Here is the hard saying, brought gently so it can bless and not bruise. If you are not willing to leave mother, brother, sister, father for my sake. Now, this is not abandonment and it is not coldness. It is the end of ownership. It is the willingness to let every relationship be held in God, not in fear. He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Means if you love a person more than the principle, you will try to cling where you should rest. You will worship the image and miss the life. So, for his sake, for the sake of reality, you loose and let go, not to be rid of love, but to find what love is when it is no longer a possession you must guard. Touch me not, said the risen one to the beloved disciple. And for generations that sounded unkind. It is not unkind. It is elevation. Do not hold me to the form you knew. Recognize me where I am. Spirit, not graspable flesh. The same is true of your remembrance now. It is not forbidden to remember. It is forbidden to clutch. When you stop clutching, you will discover a nearness that does not bruise, a companionship without anxiety. Your memory will become a window, not a cage. You will feel free to bless, to speak a name, to smile at a story, and there will be no undertow demanding that you prove anything about where you are on the calendar. Practice this in silence, not ceremony. Sit a moment and let the pronouns convert. Not my love, but thy love. Here. Not my loss, but thy life, unbroken. Into thy hands I commend my spirit. And by the same trust, I commend this Dear one, this story, this ache, say nothing to get an effect. Be still. It may rise in you to acknowledge Christ is my identity and Christ is theirs. In Christ we cannot be separated, for there is no apartness in the one. Leave it there. No bargaining. No attempt to feel holy. Only the relinquishment of ownership so presence can rule. You will ask, is this not cold? No. Coldness resents and withdraws. This releases and remains. Coldness refuses remembrance. This frees remembrance from despair. Coldness retreats into numbness. This opens into tenderness without bondage. And you will know you are not pretending when, without plan, you choose blessing over brooding and quiet over the compulsion to keep proving what they meant to you. By their fruits ye shall know them. And the fruit here is a gentler regard, a less frightened love. Now, if the heaviness persists, what then? Not more speeches to the heart, not more management. This kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. Prayer, as we have learned, is the be still in which you relinquish ownership and let love announce itself. Fasting is your refusal to bargain for results. No more mental noise, no more emotional engineering, no more deadlines for God. Withdraw from clinging and from the demand to feel different by Friday. Stand with principle in that surrendered quiet, not by power, not by argument, but by presence. You will find what cannot be lost, revealing itself as the only truth of you and of the one you love. This kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. Now, what is this kind in our present subject? Not the honest ache that is human, and it passes like weather. This kind is the stubborn cycle. Rumination that drags you back to yesterday's theater. Self-blame that whispers, if I were spiritual, this would be finished. And the outcome demand that puts God on a stopwatch. I must feel different now. That is the knot. That is the loop. It feeds upon your checking. It fattens upon your comparisons. And it thrives upon the belief that appearances are law and timing is yours to rule. Do you see it? Prayer here is not the lever to pull on that nut. Prayer is not language at all. It is God contact. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, you become silent to the marketplace and still to your own verdicts. You do not inform the infinite. You rest into it. You do not request a mood. You yield to presence. Be still and know that I am God. Not be clever, not be dramatic, be still. There must come, even for a breath, that split second of non-management in which the I that was before Abraham was announces itself without your help. And fasting, hear it without superstition. Fasting is not emotional starvation. It is starving the false law. We withdraw nourishment from the belief that you must control timing, that you must fix appearances, that you must generate a spiritual feeling to pass the test. We abstain from mental arguments, comparisons, rehearsals. No more trying cases in the night court of your mind. No more tallying days. No more applying truth statements as weapons to beat the heart into compliance. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Bread there is every mental crumb we chew to keep the loop alive. The word is the living hush that precedes not your quotations about it, but the quiet presence itself. So we take up a discipline, simple and undramatic, several times a day, no stopwatch, no scoring withdrawal for the space of one breath. That is all. A breath in which you refuse the verdict, refuse the schedule, refuse the self-evaluation. Take no thought for your life, for one breath. Take no thought for your healing, your timeline, your performance. Shut the door, enter the closet, yield. Do not string affirmations together to force a mood. Do not analyze how well you are doing at not analyzing. Just consent. If a sentence rises unbidden, it is I, fear not, Father, glorify thyself, let it rise and pass like a bird. If nothing rises, all right, the silence was the prayer. The abstention was the fast. A woman in Boston wrote, I did this for 3 days and still felt heavy. Am I failing? I answered, you are fasting from failure as much as from success. You are refusing the calendar as judge. You are starving the very premise that would turn God contact into a gadget. Judge nothing before the time. Let patience have her perfect work. Do you see what we are not feeding anymore? We are not feeding comparison, yesterday to today, you to your neighbor. We are not feeding rehearsals, the what I should have said, the what I'll do next time. We are not feeding the craving for a report. In that abstention, the loop loses its fuel. In that abstention, presence finds no obstruction. You will be tempted to decorate this practice. Longer sessions, louder claims, grand vows, refuse theatrics. Neither shall ye be heard for your much speaking. The Christ rule is quiet governance, not performance. Keep to the small doorway and trust the inner law. Short, regular withdrawals into silence, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute woven into ordinary hours. Not to get, to yield, not to move the needle, to stop holding the needle. Over days and without your watching, you will notice not a dramatic vanishing of feeling, but a dissolving of the verdict around it. The loop uncoils where it is not fed. And let me say it plain so you can rest without apology. Fasting from outcomes is not indifference, it is allegiance. You are not abandoning healing, you are abandoning supervision. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. See, not manufacture. When the pressure comes to check, to measure, to react, answer gently. Not today. This kind does not leave by argument. This kind does not leave by scoreboard. This kind goes out by prayer and fasting, by the silence that does not bargain, and by the abstention that will not feed a false law. So we circle back to our beginning, now with authority born of practice. Stop measuring your healing day by day. Stop reacting to the appearance as if it were verdict. Refuse the loop its food. Enter the closet without theater. Let the hidden work surface as it will. Maturity has its own law, and it brings to light what you cannot coerce. You tend the soil. You stop bruising the fruit. You be still. And what is real shows itself without your management and without delay, because in God, ripening is not delay, it is fulfillment. How will you know something has shifted without checking, without daily inspection, without squeezing the fruit? You will not know by the calendar. You will know by the climate. The spikes of panic come less often, and when they do come, they do not seize the helm. There is a little more room in the chest, a little more space between the wave and your naming of it. You find yourself able to sit quietly, not for hours with a stopwatch, but for one honest minute without bargaining for a result. You speak less about how you are doing. And when others press for a report, the need to justify yourself has thinned. You are a shade kinder to your own heart. Do you see that? No trumpets, no banner day, just a gentler weather moving in. The sign is not that appearances vanish on command. The sign is that appearances lose their crown. Peace, be still, is not shouted at the sea. It rises within you as a quiet authority that will not take orders from circumstance. The ache may visit, the memory may knock, but they do not dictate the despair, and they do not name you. By their fruits ye shall know them. And the fruit here is non-reaction. Faith is shown by your reaction, or rather by your refusal to react. The verdict is lifted off the appearance, and identity rests again where it belongs. Before Abraham was, I am. In that you neither fear, love, nor hate the appearance. You acknowledge it and you are not governed by it. You may notice that you misplace your old scripts. The inner headline dwindles no more. This means I am failing. No more. I must prove I'm better. When advice arrives, you can receive the casserole without swallowing the slogan. A soft answer turneth away wrath, and your softness is not capitulation. It is allegiance to principle over personalities. Night comes, and sometimes you sleep, sometimes you do not. Either way, you do not turn the night into a test. A laugh escapes you at a memory, and you do not rush to apologize to the air for being unfaithful to your sorrow. You wash 2 dishes and leave the 3rd, and there is no prosecuting attorney in the kitchen. Small mercies, yes, but in the kingdom, small mercies are royal. Now, keep the practice undramatic. Meet each day without a scoreboard. Take therefore no thought for the morrow, and by the same rule, take no thought for yesterday's chart. Return to silence as you go the split second in which you stop pushing the heart, and let my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, do its own government. Let life interpret itself. Let the law of ripening remain law. Judge nothing before the time, and time here is God's maturity, not your watch. And if grief appears again, of course it will, like weather across a range, treat it as appearance, not as prophecy. Do not enter the case humanly. Do not argue with it. Do not submit to it. Do not decorate it. Pause. Refuse the verdict. Enter the silence. Wait for the click. Hear inwardly. Not as a trick you deploy, but as presence announcing itself. Be not afraid. It is I. Then go on with your ordinary hour, unhurried and unproven. All right? Be patient. Be still. Let God have its perfect work. Let maturity bring it to light. You need not police your progress. You need only keep faith with a middle path. No reaction, no sides, no bargains. And without your watching, you will discover that what once ruled you now visits you, that what once accused you now passes without sentence, and that what once seemed like loss is revealing itself as love that cannot be taken, for it is not in time. Be still and know